Hey guys, and welcome to A Brief History, a series where we take a look at ancient tactics and traditions. In this episode, we're going to be looking at the Pre-Marian Reformed Roman army and their use of the Triplex Acies. Although this formation was used after the Marian Reforms, it was mainly used prior. The Triplex Acies consisted of 3 unit types. For the sake of argument, I've placed 10 centuries of each unit in this legion. The first were the Hastati. It is important to note that to be in the Roman army at the time, you needed to be a citizen of the Republic who owned land and needed to afford your own equipment. This severely limited the number of people that could be in the Roman army. The Hastati were the youngest and the poorest of these people. A simple shield, sword, and helmet were all they needed, and whatever armor they could afford. 10 centuries for every legion. Next were the Principes. These were soldiers that were generally between the ages of 25 and 30. Slightly richer than the Hastati, they could afford much better equipment. Many historians argue that the Principes were the true backbone of the Pre-Marian Roman army. Seeing how the Hastati were inexperienced at best, the Principes usually found themselves doing most of the dirty work. For this, they are an elite, very heavy melee infantry unit. Again, 10 centuries for this legion. Last are the Triarii. These were soldiers that were 30 and above and the richest of the infantry units. As you can tell by what they're wearing, they could afford very good equipment. But make no mistake, these were the elite of the elite in the Pre-Marian Roman army. These soldiers were used last and usually won the battles for the Romans. They were the cream of the crop and truly revered by their enemies on the battlefield. They were also considered the most heroic, oftentimes holding the line while the rest of the army retreated. 10 centuries for the legion. When the Romans deployed for battle, they deployed in what is called the Triplex Acies, which to a normal person would seem like a checkerboard pattern. The Hastati being the front, followed by the Principes and the Triarii, the heaviest units, in the back. Many historians argue how the Romans would actually go into battle following their deployment of the Triplex Acies. But it can be assumed that at the time of impact, they would form a solid front line without these gaps. To see such a large force with such discipline and organization must have been terrifying for any enemies of Rome at the time. It was common for the Roman army not to win with their first line of infantry. In fact, they would probably go through all 3 lines before finally succeeding. Warfare at the time was extremely physical, and units needed to be moved around in order to keep a front line of fresh troops. The Romans were the best at this. Once the Hastati were tired or simply being beaten by the enemy, they would return to their original formation in the Triplex Acies. Once this was done, the Principes behind the Hastati would move through the gaps made by Hastati to the new front line. The Principes would then form a solid front line and re-engage with the enemy. Again, when the Principes were either tired or being beaten, they would fall back into line in front of the Hastati, but still making that gap. Finally, the Triarii moved through the gaps made by both the Hastati and the Principes to the front line. and form a solid battle line. Oftentimes, the Triarii were the last line of defense, holding off the enemy for the army to reform and regroup, and in some cases, holding the line for the rest of the army to escape, heroically staying behind. Well guys, that is the Triplex Acies. I know I didn't mention any cavalry or skirmishers, but after all, Rome is all about the infantry. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it. If you guys have any suggestions for any other tactics or traditions, write in the comments and I'll consider making a video about it. Until then, thanks for watching.